Christ is in our midst. In today's gospel reading, we hear of two miracles. The first concerns a woman who has had an incurable disease. She has consulted with physicians, and no one is able to advise her about any cure or solution for a terrible flow of blood which she is experiencing. And she hears, according to the gospel, of Jesus coming, and he is surrounded by a crowd, and yet she decides to come close to him, and even with this terrible disease, which is regarded in some sense as making her impure, she decides to touch the hem of Christ's garment. And we are told that she believes that it will cure her. And what was this belief that she had? Christ was surrounded by people that were touching him. And yet the fathers of the church say that those who were close to him, those who were in the crowd, those who were touching him on every side, were not deriving the same benefit. And why was that? Because, according to the fathers, the woman touched Christ with the eyes of her soul. It is described in Greek as noetikos, noetically, with that part of the soul which perceives, which experiences God. God in his fullness, God in the way in which he is present to us. And with the eyes of faith, she touches him. And what is her feeling? What is her reaction upon being cured? Christ says, "Who has touched me?" And she is fearful, because in some way she feels as if she has taken something, stolen something, drained something. But Christ affirms to her that he is not like the prophets of old, the Old Testament. He is not simply passing on wisdom. He is not simply passing on the power of God, but he is that very power. And what she has received is undiminished in him. And indeed, he tells her not to fear, and calls her what? He calls her daughter. And is this not what all of us wish to be called, sons and daughters of God by faith? To be part of his holy assembly, to be part of his holy church, to be part of his holy body, to be cured. For the fathers say that the woman's incurable disease symbolizes the sins that drain our souls of its life, that drain our souls of its vivification, and that indeed, by touching the incarnation of Christ, by approaching Christ noetically with the eyes of faith, we receive his presence within us to be cured. And there is a second miracle here. And it is another daughter, but it is the daughter of Jairus. Jairus is named in the story. He is the leader of another assembly, a synagogue. It comes from the Greek word synagogue, which means assembly. It is an assembly of those who believe in God, and he believes in God. And he is described as prostrating himself before Christ and asking for the healing of his daughter, and asking, though, that Christ comes. Unlike the soldier, the officer described in the gospel who asked for the healing of his servant merely at the word of Christ, because he believed him to be God, Lord and God. This man, although believing in God, has something less to believe, for he falls down and asks Christ to follow him to heal his daughter at his house, as if Christ could not heal as God there, right there. And so he goes, Christ goes to the house, and there indeed is mourning. And he takes Peter, James, and John, and the mother and father, and he says that the girl, the daughter, is dead. No. He says she is not dead. She lives, and he is mocked. And he is mocked by those who surround. And this symbolizes what? Their unbelief. And what does he do? With the confirmation of death in this life, he raises her to life. And she is raised to life, but it is to this mortal life. It is not the eternal life. It is not the life that we see with the eyes of our souls. The one that comes from touching the very flesh of God, the very presence of God. It is a miracle. It is a miracle like that of the healing of the woman. One, to strengthen unbelief, to strengthen it so that it becomes belief. One, to teach us not to be afraid before God, not to think that we are thieves before the divine grace, which is undiminished, but one that teaches us something important, that we will experience another type of miracle, that we will be raised from the dead, truly. For Christ suffered death, and he has been resurrected, and we share in that resurrection. And within our souls we shall be filled with the presence of God, and body and soul shall be brought together once more, and we shall live together. May God be with us throughout this day and always. God bless you.
Blessing of the Lord be upon you through his grace and love for mankind, always, now and ever, and unto the ages of ages.